Hi, I'm Wayne Mills, and welcome to an edition of BCR Webcasting. I'm thrilled to be joined today by Anthony Persse, who's the CEO of Optimum Finance, and who'll be joining me at the upcoming UK Invoice Finance and ABL Summit on the 27th and 28th February in London. Optimum Finance was acquired last year by eCapital, and both businesses are specialist invoice financiers who support SMEs with their finance needs. And great to be joined.
Thanks a lot, Wayne. Great to be here.
So let's get straight in then. Keen to give people a sense of what may be happening at the summit. So look, we're going to be talking about some pretty big questions in terms of how invoice finance can evolve in pretty uncertain times as we are in at the moment. In your view, give us a sense of your biggest challenges you think that invoice financiers are facing today, specifically that really meet the needs of SMEs.
Okay, so I don't want to jump the gun, and we're going to have someone on our panel, as you know, that's an SME leader that uses invoice finance, and they'll probably give us an insight into the challenges that they face. But if I was to take a step back and consider as a funder some of the primary challenges that we face, one of them would obviously be price. So it's a very manual process at present. If we could work out ways to eject cost and deliver it for a lower cost, because there is a perceived high cost to it, then obviously that would be of interest to a wider pool of SMEs. And then I'll take another three together, which are speed, simplicity, and convenience. It doesn't matter what you're a consumer of, whether you're a consumer personally of items that we would personally purchase, or if you're a business consumer of finance, you generally want things as quickly as you can get them. So speed, it could be about the decision. Simplicity, you just want it to be easy. You don't want to have to furnish lots of information and climb over lots of hills to try and get a facility. And convenience is potentially solution being there at the point of need. So I think if we were to deliver on those four things as a starting point, that would be great. But I'm a part of a number of networks that talks to SMEs quite frequently, and you would be surprised how limited people's knowledge is of invoice finance as a solution. So I think there's an awareness challenge as well that we face in the industry that I think all of this can be overcome.
Okay, interesting. Thank you. And one of the things you brought out there, I think, was really interesting around this awareness piece, because I think, and I agree, there is still a number of SMEs who don't really understand invoice finance, and I'm not sure whether that's a deliberate strategy on behalf of the invoice finance industry to make the complexity of this product a little bit opaque, or actually, is that just some of the old ways that need to be changed? I mean, I think it's interesting when we look at the overall number of users of IF that have remained fairly static. So I guess question then to follow on from your previous point. So what's stopping more businesses from using this?
Well, I think you've nailed it with some of the points in terms of complexity maybe being a strategy. That might be the case for some. But then you're limiting the potential target market, right? If you can make it simple, you're likely to capture more opportunities and deliver the product to a wider audience. But the truth is, the reason that we've got complexity within our product is often down to risk and risk management. So that's why we have that challenge in terms of complexity. Also don't think that as an industry, we've really helped ourselves. We make things complicated in terms of using various jargon. Ultimately, this is a product that just speeds up the payment of an invoice, right? If you really want to take it back to its bare bones, and there's a fee for doing so. So yeah, I think that we can certainly improve on our awareness, or improve on the jargon, the complexity of the product for sure. And I think that it's a real shame because if I'm completely honest with you, I think that invoice finance is an awesome product. I think it can help lots of businesses for lots of different reasons beyond just funding. So, it can smooth your cash flow. It moves with your turnover. It offers a whole series of services, whether it be credit management services, ensuring that you're going to get paid, saving on those awkward conversations around credit control. Invoice financiers would potentially, if it's a factoring product, invoice financiers would take that away and help. And then there's a whole load of insight that we can provide on the back of that could certainly help businesses. So yeah, going back to your question, I think that there's some fairly basic things that we could do to improve it and also drive up take up of the product.
So, all right. So then, and I don't think anybody would argue with the need to understand and manage risk appropriately. I think that's just good basic governance and common sense. But equally, as an industry, then, if we're really going to make it easier for businesses to say yes, and I think importantly, not just those businesses that really don't have many other options, but if we make this a product of choice, actually, so it becomes a magnet which can attract businesses to it as a funding source. What specifically can funders do then to make that change?
So I honestly think that we're in a world that has changed significantly, even over the last 5 years, in terms of tech, data provision, and when I talk about tech, I'm talking about access that enables you to access data more easily. So APIs, integrations with various platforms, and then we've also got things like, when I say data, I'm talking about things like open banking, open accounting data. All of this is now at our fingertips. Rather than having to ask someone to send things to us, it's simply give us a login and we can do a whole host of the activity in the background to potentially mitigate against risk. But then I don't want to dismiss where we are at the moment. And obviously this is going to come up, I suspect, quite a lot in the summit on the 27th and 28th, but AI and the growth of AI. And so I'm cheating a little bit, Wayne. I've got a couple of stats that I've taken on AI because I find them fascinating. So a recent survey by PwC revealed that 93% of UK CEOs have now adopted generative AI in some capacity. And that's an increase from 42% last year. The World Economic Forum this year indicated that 88% of the C-suite execs globally consider accelerating AI adoption as a crucial priority to the current year. And then Gartner forecasts that by 2026, over 80% of organizations will have integrated generative AI into their operations, which is a massive rise on the 5% in 2023. We're already, within Optimum, we're already using AI, but I don't even think we're scratching the surface. And I honestly believe that when you're talking about data, tech, AI, you're really only limited by your imagination. And then the other part then is around embedded. So we've heard the term embedded finance for many years, I suspect, but I think that we're now on the cusp of things really starting to take shape, whereby you will have integrations with, whether it be an ERP, cloud accounting platforms, whether it be a procurement technology platform, data platforms, or other marketplaces. And then what you have is the potential for invoice finance to be their point of need as well. So now you've got the data and you've got the point of need, you bring that together, and I think that that's when we could see significant growth in our space.
Yeah, that makes sense. Although interestingly, and perhaps we'll cover it at the summit next week, but definitely I think, some of these stats and some of the data points talk to the larger organizations. So when we think about chief executives, we think about C-suite. Actually, that doesn't naturally correlate to the users of invoice finance, which tends to be predominated by SMEs. So actually, I think we do need to then see that trickle down effect, and some of the larger concerns, building products, bringing these products forward for the benefit of that SME community in these funding products. But yeah, look, I guess we'll cover a lot of ground next week at the conference. All right, final question. And without giving too much away, because we do want people to come to the summit. How do you see invoice finance panning out from a funding perspective? What does the future hold?
So, okay, so we're going to have. I know that we've got a few great speakers from a number of the big banks going to be at the summit. So I don't want to steal any of their thunder, but I've got a view that the big banks with their legacy systems and platforms will probably make a traditional invoice finance product quite difficult to serve because it's not straightforward. That those integrations, the system development, etc., is going to be quite costly for them to be able to do that. So I can see banks potentially retrenching from the smaller end of the factoring invoice discounting market, or potentially partnering with independents who have got the foundations of that tech that effectively would enable sort of the cost of cash that is obviously not going to, it's going to be negligible for a bank, but that is there for an independent. If you bring down the cost to serve for the independent, then they could make it economically viable to deliver. And I think that you might see some partnerships and bringing together with that. I also think that we might see some more consolidation between potentially independents, and that could be cross-border international consolidation as well, which brings obviously the benefit of potential technology that one organization may have, but also bringing in economies of scale that would enable sort of enhanced delivery and cost efficiencies to the SME end user.
That's really interesting, actually, and it will be good to get the bank's perspective on what you've just said. But I completely agree in terms of organizational structure within the industry. Feels like something has to change to facilitate some of the developments that you've talked about. I think the other thing, as an industry as well, this should align very highly with current government thinking around economic growth. This can be, if we get this right, a real engine, but to drive that growth. Okay, all right. So sounds like we're going to have lots to talk about, potential fireworks between the participants, but some good, honest, challenging debate. And thank you very much for your time. Really looking forward to next week and from the other panelists and the panel. As a reminder, it's the UK Invoice Finance and ABL Summits, 27th and 28th of February in London. And you can get more information at bcrpub.com. Thanks, Ant. All the best.
Cheers, Wayne.